4:15, 4:16 actually. But, we'll call the budget hearing to order. So, take roll.
Commissioner Cochran,
Present.
Commissioner Story,
Present.
Commissioner Garvelia, Present, Commissioner Case,
Yep.
and no mayor.
So you've all had, and we'll talk about this in the meeting in what seems like a short 44 minutes from now. You've all had ample time to look through the budget, inspect it, it's been on display, it's been on the website. The purpose of the extended budget hearing was essentially to give ample opportunity to anyone who wanted to show up and ask questions, the opportunity to show up and ask questions. So we have a reporter and our police chief. We can discuss whatever we want with the budget. If you guys have questions, I'm wide open. What do you guys, clearly there's a deficit. That deficit would be realized if we spent everything that was there. That's not ever, that rarely is that ever the case. It's not, at least it's not been the case since I've been seated. And that also factors in that revenues decline, which is, I've kind of forecasted a moderate slowdown, but not a decline yet. We're not, like I said, when we decided last week or 2 weeks ago to actually put the prepared budget on display, we're not destitute, we're not heading to the poorhouse, but we do have to watch our spending. We probably need to be much more mindful than we've been in the past regarding our spending. So, do you guys have any questions for me? Anything you want to discuss regarding how we shake this out?
I'll kick it off. I'm still here, I-57 interchange fund. We have $350,784 in there. Obviously, that's on hold right now.
Yep.
So, what will we do with that money if we keep it on hold? Will it just stay there? We're gonna try to.
Right now, it just sits there and earns interest. I don't know how that, I'm sure that fund is restricted for that particular use. I'm certain that we could probably always unrestrict those funds.
But
But also, I think that the city still has plans for a project along 57, just maybe not a beach rock. Because we could probably divert those funds to exit 77 and some development up there.
Okay, I've heard you quote a time or two here about the West Main project. It's coming up. I know we're not far enough along yet to bid it or know exact cost. I know Rod needs to give us estimates. Is anything here on that?
There are a couple of lines in here for that. There's one out of, let me scroll down a little. We've got some money allotted out of city services in the general fund. So these have been carryovers, and that's one thing about that proposed number is I'm pretty advantageous in the number that I've allotted for West Main. Clearly, I think a lot of that hinges upon the ability to secure grants. We've also not really tossed around prices for the last couple of years. So it would be really nice to get a more in-depth price. We have a meeting with Ameren on Wednesday to talk about utilities and decorative lighting, hopefully get a number from them then. But we have that 850 in city services out of the general, and then
I see on
capital improvements, and then where was the other one, Brooke?
You've got road and bridge and gas tax.
Yes, I've kind of pulled from several different funds.
you got West Main Road IDOT project over here in.
Yeah, and I can't remember if the one I sent, because I start working out of multiple worksheets, so I forgive the council on that. My apologies on that. There was one that I had totaled up to where kind of what I thought we could have saved by the time it came to fruition.
Well, I haven't talked to our engineer lately about timing. I know that I know Craig is working on some easements, and he's down to a couple easements, he's doing real well with that. Obviously, the last 2 or 3 is probably gonna be more difficult once you get it, but, I know, last time I talked to Rodney, he had submitted all of our EPA permits. So, I think we need to sit down with Rodney and get an update of where we're at. Because here we are, getting ready to start summer, and what IDOT told us they were wanting to go to bids, I believe, January 26th, I think. Of course, plans change, but I think I should get an update on that, see where we're at, so we can start making some plans, see where we're at.
Yeah, it sounds like they're probably gonna start on Bailey Lane pretty quickly too.
Okay,
That's kind of the gist that I
In the
got,
turn lane,
all of that area right there, and I guess they're going to do some pretty significant capital project from 37 maybe to the railroad
Right,
tracks,
yeah.
and then just literally overlay from the tracks to the county line.
yeah, we met with the IDOT, well, it was back to City Hall, I'm trying to think when that was, and they named off a number of projects we're gonna do. Now, when you say the turn lane there in front of the hospital, we don't have no money in that, do we, of locals? Okay, that's why I didn't, that's all them, and,
Yeah, I don't know if we'll have a dime in the project
yeah,
right there, cause we shouldn't have to relocate anything.
right,
And I think I know they did a large project there a couple of years ago, but I think this is gonna be additional improvement with probably some additional storm sewer drainage.
right.
I think they're gonna bury the ditch,
Well, there's
so.
homeowners there that's pushed for years to get that ditch filled in, and they'll be very thankful. What I looked at when we met with them about all the IDOT projects were involved. First of all, there's no utilities we gotta move, because when the new water lines were put in, it was put on private easement. And there's nothing we have got control over. Nothing, utilities have to be moved, sewer lines behind, so that's a very thankful. Now, you brought up the Route 37 North project, I forget how many easements they got on that, 200 or so. I know Craig and Lee went up to Grand Lake College and had a public hearing one time, I didn't go. They went up there and it's quite a project. But then again, where I focus on is, years ago, when we put the new water line up in front of Ace Hardware.
Yep.
So we got easements, we learned to get them off right away. So that is nothing we have to do that I'm aware of. All that's been moved, so IDOT's, their timetable, whatever. So, then the other projects, obviously, the square, we talked about that one time. What I would like to do is sit down with IDOT again and just get an update of where we're at, what's your timetable, on these projects, so we'll know. So if people ask, we'll know, at least we can plan.
Right.
Because it's traffic issues, citizens need to know what's going on.
Especially if it's a business, if they're looking at potentially doing any improvements to
Right.
their property, their facility, anything in the facade side.
Yeah.
We definitely wanna have a timetable, because we would hate for them
Right.
to do facade work, signage work, and then have to move it,
Right.
at a future date, because we missed the timeline on the project. We don't wanna leave anybody in that situation, so making sure everybody's
But-
informed is.
Technically, the project for IDOT goes from Bond Street north, up to the
Okay.
county line.
Okay.
So they're gonna pick up their bond, and they're gonna go all the way north. Now, then again, water lines are out of the way, so that's a good thing. That, like I said, that's what we talked about, was focusing on that.
Should be pretty minimal
So-
cost on our side.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a project that's in the budget, we can talk about it, if they're on the sewer line.
Mhm.
Craig's here, he can talk about more than me. From Park Street North on the
Yep.
east side of the road, that's in our budget, we've got to do that, we've got about 8 people, maybe that's got sewer up
Yeah,
there.
there's about 8 or 9 through there.
It falls under the same category as what we did on McLeansboro Street, okay?
Okay.
We did not want to go in on McLeansboro Street from Webster to the railroad track and do a project before school started. But we had 8 people out of sewer. If you're out of sewer, out of sewer.
Right.
So that's similar to that. We've had a fellow in here talking about that. He bought, Red Tally's place.
Okay.
We've talked to him and, citizen, so it's bad, it's collapsed, it's a mess, it's sucking sewer, so we've got to get it done. So we've got that in the budget to do this year.
It's in there, that particular fund that we're planning on paying for it out of is still underfunded, so the budget is not full, or that project is not fully funded.
Okay,
Depending on, you know, I think a lot of the way we can pay for some stuff is recapturing that water loss that we've got right now. And if we can continue, and buying larger meters, turning those over should be an increased revenue cycle, you know, source for that department, which should pop up. And you may not be able to get to it in this fiscal year, but if we can curtail some of that water loss, we can shove some more money to it and and hopefully get it going next fiscal year. I mean, it's one of those things where it's a slow build. We know what it's gonna cost, and of course, by the time we get to it, it's gonna cost more than that, but it's, you know, especially with that revenue fund is just really, it's just tight. It's been tight since we got seated in 23, and until we get that loss situation really reeled in, I think we're gonna continue to battle that here and there.
well, every project we do, it's helping. And, you know, we're gonna do the one down at the high school, the last time we talked to our contractor, Jeff, Brightman School gets out in May. We haven't talked to him lately, but I think that's when he's online to do it. We're gonna try to do it for the high school, for the gym, get that done first. But every service we do, we got about 120 services or something.
Yeah.
Every service we do, every line we replace, we're gonna save on water, I guarantee you.
Absolutely, and I think all the pipe is in for that, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got it, everything's on our lot down there.
Yeah, materials in, and Jeff just working his schedule, but really, it'll work out pretty good. It's gonna work out pretty good with school being out.
Absolutely, and then we've got the overlay project. We probably wanna get that water project done as soon as we can, that way we don't delay any of the overlay.
In front of the high school gym, yeah.
Yeah, we gotta get the water through there first.
Yeah.
So we can get it.
Well, that's what we're gonna focus on there. It's a big project. It's a good project. Dolphin Street, cover a lot of area. But yeah, we've got a lot of good things to do this year. You know, we talk about IDOT project in front of the hospital. I don't know if you've been out there and drove it, but the road's a mess.
It
And
is.
what they do when they get ready to do those, they just let the road, they don't patch anything.
Right.
So from a citizen standpoint, trying to drive the road, I'll be glad when they get it done. It's just a mess, you know?
Right, well, and that's, speaking of that, inside of capital improvements, one thing that I did make sure was in there was a hot box.
Yes.
For hot patching.
Yes.
I mean, that's one that, I mean, it does affect all departments in some way, shape, or form, and with as much rain as we've got, with as much snow as we got, we'll be able to keep the street guys, I mean, they're in the busy season now to begin with, but they can be as busy as they want when we get that hot box in, and I told Craig to make sure that we get it as soon as we can.
We're basically gonna move up on another level, fixing the street.
Yes.
You didn't realize that. When we had all that bad weather and, you know, we were trying to put patch in, well, you gotta get moisture out of the hole, the patch will be out in a day. And I seen the IDOT guys go around doing it, and I'm thinking, but that'll help, but who knows, we had a terrible winter.
Right,
It's hard to relate to it on a day like today, but we had a tough winter.
yeah,
It's
and
been a
then,
long time since we had that bad of a winter, so that will help tremendously next year for us to be able to do patch.
and then all of the rain that we got on top of it.
All the
Definitely
rain.
did not help it, wash out all that cold patch.
All
and
patch, rather
Man.
winter time, yeah.
All of that.
What else did I talk about? Yeah, we'll try to get a hold of IDOT, maybe get a meeting with them to get a new timetable of everything, if we can, just for curiosity.
You can do that.
You know, from Hospital 37, the Square, the West Main, see where they're at, you know, and just kinda, so we can come back to y'all and say, here's our plan. Sometimes plans don't work, but, you know, we at least know what's going on. Then we have to get money together if we can, and so we'll do that.
Does anybody out in the crowd have any questions or comments regarding the budget? We had some walk in a little late, so I just didn't know if you guys had any questions or not. Welcome.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
On, police, department, new squad car, 30,000.
Just a half allotment, because the original plan was to not purchase one this year, but, I had some conversations with the chief, because the way we outfit it, we can outfit stuff from, I mean, we can use that impound money for whatever we want with Squad Cars.
Okay.
But also, like, it, you know, if there's money built up in the DUI fund and we have impound fund money, you know, there's a lot of things we can outfit that squad car with out of the DUI fund, and then we don't have as much force on the back of the local taxpayers.
That would come out of the general or whatever.
Essentially, the $30,000 for the squad car is a lot out of the general, and then piece it together from some other places.
Okay.
And again, if we come across a good deal on state bid, or we come across something, then we can go, it's kinda like 806 last
Right,
year.
right, okay. The dispatch, you had a what was it, 160,000, thereabouts?
I think, did I put that in city services?
Yeah.
Yeah,
160.
is that what we're looking at?
It's pretty close. I mean, I've not been given an exact number.
Okay, okay,
It's pretty close.
but we'll be okay with that.
Yeah, and I expect, you know, I've had some conversations with Ryan Buckingham, I've had some conversations with the sheriff. I think once we get changed over, I fully expect our cost in that to actually go down.
I think that's what.
And that's what I've been told.
That's what I've been told too, so we're pretty good with that.
Yeah, and a couple of things, you know, we did it last year for police, and this year, you know, basically May 1, we're gonna do it for fire, we voted on it last time. That transition is an expensive endeavor.
It's gonna.
Going over and digitizing everything is not a cheap endeavor, making sure that we've got the equipment, and then we've gotta do a software upgrade with all of that and switch over, so, you know, those are startup costs that we won't have to worry about going forward, we'll just have to worry
We're
about
gonna
maintenance
change our
costs.
software all over.
Yeah, that's included in the budget.
Yeah.
as well.
Oh, okay.
And that's,
And next year it'll be cheaper because it.
Right,
there is a
we're going to Zucker, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Central Square, yeah.
Okay, thank you, that's all. I'm good with everything else.
and there's some things, you know, that, I think with us being here, I think our overall building costs will be cheaper than they were at 1403 South Main. I mean, we are still doing utilities there because we saw the alarm system set up with the cameras, but, you know, we don't have to run, it doesn't have to be heated to full in the winter, it doesn't have to be 68 in the summer, and we don't have a utility cost here at Campbell, so I think that's a big help. You know, I'm optimistic. I know the budget looks like it's a doom and gloom situation. It's not a doom and gloom. It's just we've got to just kind of really curtail some of our spending on some more frivolous luxury things. You know, a lot of these costs are just, again, there's stuff that we'll never actually end up doing. You know, we over budget on what we do with our parks for a particular reason, that way we make sure that we can, you know, we do more than just provide emergency services and street and water, like we also have other things that we do, so. You saw the safety stipend in there, we'll talk about that tonight during the meeting, and there's a policy in your packets, that we'll handle. I mean, I'm anxious to see what happens this fiscal year as far as revenues go. I'm really anxious to see how that goes. Like I said, we've started to see an uptick in billing penalties and delinquencies in the water department. So I think that's the tip of the iceberg when it comes to that. I mean, because then we'll see sales tax numbers, they're running 2 to 3 months behind from the state, so when we start to see the sales tax numbers in the summer for the current period, we'll have a really good picture of where we're at, with that. Nice thing is, video gaming tax continues to exceed expectations. Sales tax, that's the thing, when prices went up, the sales tax number is a percentage, so
Yeah.
tax revenues increased as prices went up. I expect income tax to continue to tick down, and, interest income, I mean, we've been very fortunate the last couple of years with the amount of ARPA funds that we had through COVID and having some cash on hand during a high interest rate environment, we've been very lucky regarding that. So that's allowed us to do some of the things that we may not have really been eager to do, like purchasing a squad car last year. You know, you can essentially purchase it with interest income. You can replace a zoning vehicle because we got interest income. So that's a large help. It's still, I mean, I don't know, I mean, I'm not a forecasting expert by any stretch of the imagination, so, if we miss somewhere, we miss somewhere, and there's not much I can do in my limited training regarding this regarding this area, so. Welcome to our newcomers. Do you guys have any questions for the budget? Okay. We're still in the budget hearing for another 24 minutes, so you're just gonna hear us continue to ramble on about numbers until 5 o'clock gets here, so.
Yeah, there are no problems. Well,
Okay.
So feel free to do that, Chris.
I'll probably close at 4:45 if we don't have anything else, so. Yeah, and one thing I did talk about at the last meeting, or the meeting at the end of March, I've also begun to build in increases in the compensation for the commissioners and the mayor. That will not take effect, and again, we still have to change ordinance to actually put that in place. That would not take effect until May 1st of 27 at the earliest. Just due to state laws, we can't increase our own compensation. But we've gotta find a way to get people involved, and we expect a lot. I mean, the commission form of government expects a lot out of the 4 elected commissioners, and if you're not going to pay them, you're not going to get attractive candidates to come in. It's like anything else. You don't pay well, you don't get employees, we've talked about it with the police department, public works, and like, it's just kind of the nature of the beast right now. I'm hoping the overall cost of our insurance goes down. It should go down with the new carrier. That's also a big push of the safety stipend, is to really reduce the amount of comp claims and lost work days due to injury. So, hope not everyone's able to skin in the game, to attempt to be safe, but we know some things are unavoidable, but.
I like the new sign.
And it's accurate.
Will that be department specific or will that city
It's-
specific?
It's city specific. It encompasses everybody, because I understand not to say it can't happen, right, but some departments are more prone than others. So I wanted to encompass it citywide to begin, and if it needs tweaking, we can tweak from there. But I think it will be nice, again, it's a little something extra throughout the year. It's not, like I said, it's not the token, here we are early December, here's your gift card for Christmas and thanks and have a great winter. This is, hey, each quarter you get something, and the small tweak I'm gonna make is, 1.5. So if we have 2 or more injuries in a quarter, no safety stipends. Which, I mean, it's been 60 days since, as you can see with the sign, so it's not, we are well within the numbers of kind of the way the policy was put together. I've not made the bar unattainable. Like, that's not fair either, because that's not an incentive to gatekeep it that strongly. No one gets an incentive that way if you gatekeep it that way. So, but yeah, that's one thing that I think would be positive for our employees. It's just, and again, it'll be good for our local businesses too. We'll solicit and purchase our gift cards from, businesses in the community, and I don't wanna, even though they're not directly with us, like, if this program continues to be successful and go on, we can also include other establishments in West City, or, we could talk to the Conservancy District for something this season. It's just, we're all rangers in the end, so like, the money comes back in a circle and gets spent. And it puts people to work, and again, it's, like I said, I think it's a nice touch. Could be long as we stay on top of things, and John and I are gonna begin meeting quarterly to go over funds a little bit more regularly, just it's something that both of us kind of wanted to do. And one thing that we will do at some point coming up is reformat this budget. I looked at Marion's budget, and I love the way theirs is laid out. It gives you a year-over-year comparison from what was the budget versus the actual, so like the way this would be presented to you is it would have a fiscal year 23-24, an actual 23-24, and then the budget for the fiscal year 24-25. I think something like that is just a really, and it's not just for us, but for the public, it's an easy thing to
Easier to
navigate and look
understand,
through.
easier to understand.
I wish I had $30 million of sales tax revenue like Marion has. We are not that fortunate, but, that was kind of eye-opening when you look at, they can pay for the vast majority of their services directly through sales tax. So,
You know, they were talking about the 1% grocery tax, what theirs would be, what theirs is compared to ours.
yes, yes,
You got Sam's and Kroger's and all these stores.
absolutely. I mean, we shop, I mean, and it's not Benton, it's West City, but we buy our groceries from Walmart, but then we always make a Sam's run every month.
Yeah, we do.
That Sam's run seems to get more and more expensive every time I make it.
Me too. I'm with you. But there's certain things you can buy there you can't buy anywhere else.
Listen, I need a giant bag of Reese's peanut butter and chocolate dip animal crackers every month, like that's, like, can't find those anywhere but Sam's.
Give your secrets out.
One thing for the businesses, we are continuing the facade grant program out of TIF. I think that thing has been just a dynamite winner.
Wonderful.
It's been a winner. I would like to see it expanded a little bit more, but that's not here nor there. Like, that's something that with a little bit of conversation and work we can do, especially if everybody within that area has already exercised and doesn't have any need. I'd like to see that money utilized with other businesses to help them continue to be successful. That's our job, is to foster that. So, like I said, we've got quite a bit earmarked for West Main. I'm sure that the number that was originally shot is gonna be completely different from what we were shot in 21 and 22. Like I said, we'll know more Wednesday when it comes to utilities and decorative lighting. I'll just say this, I was originally not a fan of redoing utilities, but we've got one shot at it. And I think that if we're gonna do that type of project, if that type of project's gonna be done by the state, and the amount of money that they're going to dump into it, I mean, it's our gateway to town. West Main is right off the interstate. I think it's appropriate for us to bury the utilities and do new decorative lighting. Because if we decide we wanna come back and do it in 3, 4, 5, 6 years, the cost is gonna be 4 or 5 times as
It's
much.
crazy.
So while the streets, while everything's cut open, we probably need to bite the bullet and do it.
Okay.
Again, I'll know more Wednesday when we actually have that meeting with Ameren and IDOT to find out exactly what they're thinking. But we'll cross that bridge.
That meeting's Wednesday.
Yes. So, nobody else out there has any questions regarding the budget? No one? Then I'm gonna make a motion to close the budget hearing, and then we'll recess for 15 minutes.
Commissioner Cochran,
Yes.
Commissioner Story,
Yes.
Commissioner Garvelia,
Yes.
Commissioner Case.
Yes. So we'll recess for 15, we'll come back and we'll open the meeting back at 5 o'clock.